Recruiters with Luke Parker?
Yeah, we haven't really had much meaningful discussion yet with them, so we'll catch up with Brady shortly and we'll work through how that looks.
Do you need, when these older type players walk around the club is typically pick in the 50s or 60s, are you keen for a bit more than that, given what he's done for your footy club and the fact he's contracted?
Well, yeah, I think the fact that he's contracted plays a fairly big part in it. Clearly, he's a pretty important player and has been for a long time. He's a champion of our football club, and he's won 3 best and fairest and a captain and premiership player and all that. And he was in our team on grand final day. So I think the fact that he is contracted, adds a bit of complexity to it, and the deal still needs to be done. So there's a bit of an onus on North Melbourne to get that done.
What have you identified out of the grand final as a need for the Sydney Footy Club?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, I think clearly we're disappointed with the result, and credit goes to Brisbane as well. I think we've got to acknowledge that, but I think we also need to acknowledge that we've done a fair bit right throughout the year, and it didn't go our way on the day, but we feel like we've got a lot of good young pieces. We're still pretty young, and we feel like we've got some internal growth. And to be honest, we want to back this group in a fair bit, and I feel like we have done over the last couple of years in terms of retaining a lot of our key talent, which we're really confident in this group going forward. And in terms of areas we need to address, we might look to do that in the draft, and we're pretty happy with where we sit. I mean, we've got 2 first-round picks in this draft, and it looks like a really good draft and pretty deep. And we've spent the last 3 days chatting to the boys, and a really impressive crop of kids, and we're really excited with what we can bring into our footy club, and we know we need to get better, and we'll try and do that.
You put in those 2 first-round picks as a potential offer to Gold Coast for that pick 13 that's up for grabs?
Well, I think where we sit, it gives us licence to be pretty flexible. So, we're pretty open-minded with what we can do. So, yeah, we'll look at all options to either come up or sit tight and take 2 players that we think are really good players that can add to our footy club. Equally, we could look at moving back or moving out. I think we've got a lot of options, and no doubt where we sit is a really good spot in the draft, and I think it'd be actually pretty sought after from other clubs. And so we'll wait and see how it all plays out.
Is Pete Adams given any indication he doesn't want to be there, or he wants a better opportunity?
No, not at all. I mean, Pete's contracted, and he's a really popular member of our footy club, and to be honest, we're pretty comfortable with where our sort of ruck stock sit at the moment. Obviously, Grundy's there at the top, but Pete's a pretty valuable player for us, and we know he can play at the level. And we've got 2 developing types in Will Green, which we invested a first-round pick in last year, and Lockie McAndrew as well. So, look, Pete understands where it's at, and he certainly hasn't indicated to us that he wants to move.
I know he's contracted, but has Sam Wicks expressed any desire to explore his options?
No, not at all. In fact, it's been quite the opposite in terms of his exit interview was fantastic, and he's fully invested in the footy club going forward, and we're absolutely happy to have him.
Are you confident you can ward off WA interest for Chad Warner? Obviously, maybe not this year, but next year.
Yeah, we are, and I mean he's contracted for next year, which is great. And clearly he's a special talent, and we know how good he is, and we know how important he is for our football club. And we'll do everything we can to try and retain him. And those conversations with his managers is ongoing, and like any player on our list really, whether they're 12, 24 months away from being out of contract, we're having those discussions, and Chad's no different. But clearly he's key talent for us going forward, and we're confident we can go forward with him.
Do you get the sense that he wants to stay beyond next year?
Well, I think so. I mean, they're a pretty close group, and I think throughout this year you'll see that a lot of the bigger name out of contract players that we're able to re-sign as part of our retention strategy, they all stuck together. And I think this group is really tight, and I think they want to stick together, and I think we know where they can take us, and we're confident in that, and Chad's a big part of that, clearly.
Is it hit a point where you could get an offer you can't refuse this year as opposed to next year when he's out of contract, or from your point of view, categorically would not entertain it?
No, I wouldn't entertain it at all. I suppose that's how important he is for our footy club, and look, our intention is to extend him beyond next year, so we've got no intention of trading him this year at all.
What's the situation with Constantine? Top 20 pick just 2 years ago. Is that you heard of any interest, or is it something from the club that you can?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a frustrating couple of years for Jacob, and we're working through that at the moment with him, and it's probably a matter of where this sort of 9-day period ends up and where the dust settles as to what happens with him. But we're in constant communication with him and his management, and he knows where it's at. So we'll see how that one plays out. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.